Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me? Thumbs up? Yes? Yay! This is so bizarre. It's like, all right. Good afternoon, my name is Dave Wilby. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for a company called ReturnPath. Return who, you may be asking? ReturnPath, we are a company that helps commercial senders reach the inbox through aiding them to improve their deliverability. So how many of you here have a spam folder? Yeah, all right. How many of you are Gmail users? Okay. How many use other mailbox providers? Good to know. All right. So one of the other things we do is that we work in the community with mailbox providers to determine what is good email and what is bad email, and to try and keep the bad email out of your inbox. Now, you may think that we do a really poor job, but equally, I would dare you to go into your spam folder and just see how much interesting email we do put away for you. So we work with the mailbox providers to keep the bad guys out and let the good guys in. On the commercial side, we help the deliverability of commercial emails that you have probably signed up for. You are those coupons that you want to hear, offers you want to see, receipts you want to get, and travel information. And that's where we sit. We sit in the middle of the ecosystem. We have three big data sources where we pull from. And today I want to give you an example of how we're using big data on a platform with our partners at Qubole to solve real-world problems. Okay? So those three big data sources are, we have a panel of over 2 million subscribers who use our tools every day in their inbox. That gives us first-party information. And for those of you who are on the security and privacy side, we're fully GDPR compliant. We have permission. It's all above board. We're not selling the data to anyone. The second piece is a collaboration between ourselves and over 80 mailbox providers around the globe, where we share information about how well the email ecosystem is doing. And by that, I mean we produce a blacklist of bad senders. So these are the guys you should definitely not even bother to put in the spam folder. You should just reject them when the email arrives in the inbox. All right? And in return, they give us information around how much volume is arriving at that particular inbox. So that gives us insight to close to 2.6 billion inboxes across the globe. And finally, we have over 30 million parked domains. In other words, domains on the internet that should never be receiving email. They may well be domains that have once received email and now have closed down, or they are typos. So for example, your bank with a misspelling. So that gives us a good triangulation across three different vectors: what customers actually see in their inbox, what mailbox providers are actually delivering to the inbox, and from an infrastructure point of view, what shouldn't be delivered. So that between those three data points, we now have an unprecedented view about the health of the email ecosystem. I don't know how many of you were chemists at school. I failed miserably, but one of the things I do remember is the periodic table. And this is our data periodic table. It's nothing to do any more than there will be a quiz at the end of the presentation, and if you can remember more than 2 boxes, you win a prize. But no, seriously, it's about showing you how many disparate sorts of data you can have in your organization. If you think about your environment, think about all the different ways that you can collect data. Think of all the different aspects that go to make up a picture of how well your clients are doing, how your partners are doing. And without doubt, it becomes more and more complex. Big data is only getting bigger and more complex. The infrastructure picture behind me is to basically just demonstrate that we have all those millions and millions of data points coming in to a scalable platform. And in partnership with Qubole, we have built an infrastructure that allows us to do a couple of things. One is consolidate all that data together, but more importantly, it gives me, as the COO, confidence that I am presenting to my developers, analysts, and my end customers a safe environment in which to explore that data and improve their business without getting swamped. How many of you here have data scientists on call or on consultancy? And how many times do you have them going, as you can see from the data, and they send you this great big Excel spreadsheet of numbers, and you're like, actually, I can't see. So this is a great environment in which you can now build a picture of how well your business is doing. But this isn't really a technical talk. This talk is really about showing you how we use data to solve some problems and how we're combining those different data sets together. So how many of you send commercial email? How many of you send it out just to your clients and not just generating business? So there's a fair smattering across the group. All right. Motherhood and apple pie moment. If you send more email, you'll generate more revenue, right? Well, sort of. The problem with it is, yes, you will, the more people you send to, but those same people that you send to will start to get disgruntled. If you overmail them, if you send too frequently, if you send the wrong message, they're going to unsubscribe. Then you're in this vicious cycle. You're in this vicious cycle of paying more to acquire more people to send to, because your boss is standing over you going, send more email. All right? You end up in this terrible vicious cycle, which eventually will kill you. All right? Your returns on investment will no longer work. So, how do we get over that problem? One of the challenges we faced was a lot of our big commercial senders were saying, we want to send more, but it's hurting us. How can we get to the right client at the right time? Okay? So getting to the right time, getting to the inbox, at the right time with the right message to the right client is the absolute target you want to hit. Too much email, too many unsubscribes, too much churn in the business. Problem is, it's a multivariate problem, meaning it's not just how much you can send and how frequently, it's engagement with the brand. It could be the life cycle of the customer at the time they're engaged with your brand. So personally, I moved house in June. For June, July, and August, I was desperately keen to get any offer from any home improvement store anywhere. It was like, yes, send me those vouchers. Now we've been in 7 months, 8 months. I don't want those vouchers. Like, periodically I want an update, yes, but I don't want it. So how do you take that all into effect? Traditional methodologies say, all right, I'm going to send my list of subscribers and I'm going to segment them. And typically 30, 60, and 90-day list. That can work, but you're going to miss a lot of opportunity because what you're missing is the fine-grained detail within each one of those categories. What we've built is a new solution that is a machine learning, AI-driven, buzzword bingo, fully enabled, right, with a badge and a t-shirt solution. But realistically, what it's doing is it's looking for patterns, and it's marrying together the engagement that this particular customer and their clients have with the brand, and it's saying, how does that change over the life cycle of their engagement with you? How quickly can we identify those patterns, and then can we actually segment not just on how often we send, but how we send and what is the content of those sends. So we're bringing together the data from the client, and we're bringing together that data from their ESP platform, from their CRM platform. We're bringing it together with a lookalike model that we have from our panel of 2.5 million inboxes. And we're basically saying, I'm going to segment, but in a slightly different way. I'm going to segment and say, these customers are highly engaged with the inbox and highly engaged with the brand at this time. You can send more frequently to them. This middle set are highly engaged in the inbox, but not necessarily with your brand, but maybe with your competitors. You need to send to them at this frequency. And then this final set is probably in the bucket of you just need to keep them warm because they may have a life event that's going to change, that will drive them to engage with your brand. Okay? We built it as we realized that if we just do a one-off scoring model, it's not going to work. You have to continuously come back and revisit that model. And we built it in, first of all, the distinction we have between machine learning and AI is that machine learning gives a recommendation, and then the human, or pinkware as we like to call it, makes the final decision. The AI version brings it into a fully blown automated solution, right, which then just self-learns. Now, one of the tricky things we found is that the model worked really well, except when it starts testing itself. So you'll see great performance, and then it will throw a curveball to test its own assumptions. If you're working with a client, that can be a really scary moment, because it's great improvement, great improvement, great improvement, nothing, and then you're back up again. So it's like, this is a learning experience I want to share with you. It's like, it's not all roses. You know, you want to be careful and position that you are testing and working together. So this particular use case is a a bricks and mortar retailer in the US, who I will not name, but basically had multiple millions of subscribers, and they were sending to everybody once a day. The entire list, every day. All right? Their churn rates were close to about 30, 40%, and they're pouring money into acquiring more and more users. Everybody who came into the retail store was, when you got your receipt, they were saying, can I email that to you? Right? Like any possible way. So it was a massive opportunity. What we did was we brought together, started working with them for a 4-week period, and we also split the list. So we did a control, and we did a test sample. What we managed to discover on the list growth side was significant improvements. A 20% lift in your growth. It's not because we did anything magic. What we did was we stopped people churning and unsubscribing, which means your acquisition dollars go to actually grow the list rather than keeping it a steady state. Make sense? That's real dollars you can take back up the chain or reinvest in your own infrastructure. The second one, and this is the money shot, is did we generate more revenue for them? Yes, we did, significantly. All right. The challenge here, though, is when we first started out, the model started sending less. And that's a real hard place to go. If you can imagine going to your boss and going, I think I can send more and make more money, but I'm going to start off by sending less. And see how that discussion goes in your weekly one-to-one. So it's a bit of a challenge there. But what we have seen with the model is a break-even point of 4 to 5 months to break even, and then it starts accelerating. Does that make sense? Okay. So, rip-roaring success. This is going to be a product from you, return path. Awesome. Nope. In the world of agile development, this is a failure. Why? Because I cherry-picked the one example that worked. Out of 10, 9 failed. Why did 9 fail? Because the customer was unwilling to implement the last mile. The recommendations from the model were coming back. They were coming back saying, you need to send less. Or for the chronic under-mailer, who wasn't saying enough email, they didn't have enough creative. So they were like, oh, I'll send the same thing again. Like, no, 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 no. So not everything is milk and honey when it comes to big data. But big data is very interesting, especially when you combine it and look at that multivariate problem to solve real customer problems. We haven't completely thrown it away. We are actually now bringing this to market as a professional services offering. We wanted it as a turnkey, press the big red button and it would work. Now we're bringing it to market as a professional service offering. So, word of warning, not everything in the big data space is good. So the second problem I want to talk to you today about is how many of you send to Gmail and have a full understanding of exactly what's going on with Gmail? No, good, because nobody does. Gmail, although we have a relationship with over 80 mailbox providers around the world, anybody here from Gmail, Google, before I? No? Good, all right, I can be a little bit more candid then. They don't share anything. They do not share data with anybody. So it is very difficult as a email provider and an email sender to understand what's going on. And you can have this weird dichotomy where you've sent an email program week 1, you send exactly the same one or very similar one week 2, you get a very different result. So this is something our customers have been telling us about. If you can solve this problem for us, Dave, it would be awesome. Well, I think we might have, which is great. And it's a product that's going to come to market in the June timeframe in North America and worldwide in October. We know from observation that Gmail uses incredibly sophisticated engagement level monitoring to determine whether you're going to get placed in the inbox. So from the moment you press the button saying I'm going to send a campaign till the end of that campaign, Gmail will react so quickly that if the first, say, 100 users don't like it, they either say this is spam or I'm not interested or they're not engaging with it, they will then move your campaign to a folder. And if you still don't get a response, they will then move it to the spam folder, and eventually they will put it in the junk folder or just deny it at the gateway. We see this, we have data for it over and over again. So it's a highly reactive, very quick turnaround on engagement. So what can we do? The solution that we've built is, again, building from those 2 million panelists to say, can we effectively score your list based on engagement? Can we reorder the list so that you're sending to your most engaged users first, then your medium engaged, and then your low engaged, which means you've got more chance of the whole campaign going through? Yes, we can. We build lookalike models, so with, again, building on the Qubole platform that we have, we're pulling in the panel data, we're looking at the customer data, we're marrying the two together, creating lookalike models, and then extrapolating that out and sending that back automatically back into ESP platforms so that the delivery cycle actually works. Proof of the pudding? In the eating. A beautiful chart put together by one of my data scientists, who I actually managed to convince that a graph would be better than numbers. It's still not a thing of beauty, so bear with me. Point 1 on the graph. So the line chart is deliverability. The lower bar chart is their list size. We've categorized it into either highly engaged with the brand or highly engaged with their inbox. So for those of you who are colorblind, my apologies, I'll explain it later. But if you're okay with it, I'll plow on. You can see at this point they bought something or they did an acquisition strategy. All right? Huge list. Increase here. The next thing is they start sending to that list, you see a huge bump. The good news is Gmail has a model that is innocent until proven guilty. So they'll deliver email until people start complaining about it or they ignore it. As soon as they reach that point, you start to see this curve coming down. They're either not engaging with their brand or they're saying this is spam. If you ever want to, I shouldn't probably say this, but if you ever want to hurt a competitor, receive their email and say this is spam in Gmail, it's massive. Ooh, I know, shouldn't say that. Anyway, you're beginning to see that this is a cyclical pattern, that they would do a great campaign, then it would dive off, they'd buy some more, they'd acquire more users, I shouldn't say buy, they do an activity that generates more to their list, and they start going in this cycle. We then engaged with them at this point, and you can see it's just going to continue. But during this period between this line and this line, we started analyzing the list. We started reordering the list and started saying, all right, you need to start pulling this back send in this order rather than send in the random order that you have today. What happened? Two things happened. First of all, your highly engaged users stopped oscillating. They became a lot better at deliverability. You stop being penalized for that lack of engagement. The second thing that happened is your low engaged users, again, you stop that big oscillation, and note that that oscillation stopped while the list kept growing. In the past, as soon as you started losing people, your oscillation kicked in again. This gives you a much better performance against your email campaign in Gmail. Now, one of the questions I get around this is, so if I reorder the list once, I'm done, aren't I, Dave? The good news for me is that you're not, because that engagement level with your brand will change over time, much like we had with the send frequency model. It's going to be exactly the same. It has a half-life of about 4 weeks. So after about 4 weeks, you need to revisit that list. Okay? All make sense? All right. 2 practical examples, hopefully, of how we have used big data to create new solutions. So combining data from multiple sources is key. It can also be bloody confusing, frustrating as hell. So I would recommend that you work and build a partner platform. Find something that can scale with your business, that gives you the ability to have predictable, reproducible, and scalable results. The other thing that we discovered is that we decoupled our data science from our engineers. So in the past, the data scientists would come up with a solution and then they would be annoyed and frustrated that they had to wait behind other more important things that engineers were working on. Now with Qubole as a platform, what we have now is a platform that allows us to rapidly prototype. A data scientist can come up with a brand new idea and a brand new model. They can deploy it into what's known as a notebook. I can then push that out to my clients being my own professional services teams or my customers, and they can test rapidly and give us feedback rather than waiting for a gap in the engineering calendar, then pushing the results out in code, then harvesting those results, finding it didn't work and coming back again. And we've come down to a less than 2-week iteration process where we can rapidly prototype. Now, one of the side effects is also that now my data scientists believe that they're all engineers, that they can build anything. So just a word of warning there. But rapidly prototyping is the benefit with the right platform. The other thing is that it has driven complete cultural change. And now my data scientists are the rock star of our organization because they can get in front of customers, they get that immediate feedback loop, and they're producing real-world examples. So, thanks for your attention. Are there any questions? I know I rattled through a whole bunch of stuff really quickly. It was only 25 minutes, but any questions? Stunned you into silence. It must be like you're desperate for lunch. All right, I understand. No questions? All right. Names at the top of the presentation, dave.wilby@returnpath.com if you have something afterwards. So let me know. All right, thanks for your attention.